Wow, it's showtime. And I was almost not ready. Hey, are you a working mom and do you struggle to accomplish all of the things that you're responsible for, things that fit in your roles, your responsibilities, and expectations that others have for you? And that not only includes your roles and responsibilities, it includes being reliable, dependable, and constantly available to your family, your loved ones, as well as your friends and acquaintances. And if you are a working woman and you're struggling and juggling, that means that you fall into the what? Superwoman category. But we're going to talk about today how wise moms lower stress and boost energy. And we're going to get to that in just a moment, I believe. Hi, everybody. I'm Marcyline Bailey of Stress Talk, and this is Stress Talk Live. Stress Talk shares what strategies for overwhelmed super women so they can lower their stress levels, boost their energy. Because when we have stress levels and energy that's just right, we have the motivation and exactly what we need to meet the challenges that we face on a daily basis. I'm glad you're here today. I want to welcome my regular viewers. I also want to welcome those of you who are new to Stress Talk Live. I'm also going to give a shout out to those of you who are watching the replay on Facebook and on YouTube, as well as those of you who listen to the podcast. And the podcast is available wherever you listen to your podcast. You can find it on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and a host of others. So, welcome and thanks for spending this time with me. There are a few things that I want to share with you before we get into our topic for today. First of all, I want you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at MO Bailey Consultants. I'm always sharing information related to stress management and stress relief for women over 40s on my social media platforms. But you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook. The other thing I'd like to share with you is that I do have a website at mlbaileyconsultants.com. That's where actually it's undergoing a little revamp, but you can always find great information there as well. In addition to experiences that I have for you to help you to lower your stress and boost your energy. I'm going to be talking about today ways that wise working moms can manage their stress levels and boost their energy. And these are things that we don't often talk about as moms, and we don't often talk about them in a way that helps us to figure out strategies that will help us. Well, today I'm going to share some of those strategies that I think will be very helpful to you. I want to share that I'm a working mom. I have two daughters, both of whom are adults now. They're in their 20s. One is 23, the other is 21. And their entire lives, I've worked. I've maintained a career, and with the support of my husband, we worked. And so we had to learn how to manage as a family and how to manage so that we were raising our children in a healthy way so that they would be healthy and whole. and so that we could feel as if we were giving them what they needed to grow into the adults that we see them being now. And some of the things that I'm going to share with you, I we kind of did intuitively. However, the Stanford Children's Health Services um, posted an article about common causes of stress for, ooh, no, no, that's not it. I'm going to hide that. Let me go back. That is not the one. Let me figure it out. I'll have to figure it out for you. That is not. That was last week's link. So here, let me try to figure this out. I'm sorry about that. I want to give you the link. This is the link to the article that I um, that I used to back up some of the things that we did as parents. My husband and I did as parents that I'm going to share with you. So just give me a second and I'm going to post this. Um, I'm going to post this link for you. That's funny, isn't it? I thought it was really kind of funny. Let me see here. Okay, so let me do this. I know this is kind of crazy, isn't it? Let's get out of that. Let's get rid of that. All right, here we go. I'm going to post this link. Oh, whew, I got it. So let me show you. Let me save it. And there, pop it up. Okay, there. That was really interesting. Anyway, so this is the article that I read, and I was like, wow, these are the things that we did as parents in raising our children. And they're things that really helped me as a new mom, a mom with with newborn children, um, who and all through their school life. Okay, these are things that help. So I wanted to pop that up so that if you want to actually read the article, you can do that. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you my summary of the article and also put into words what we did. So basically, this article is the basis for what I'm sharing with you, but it is also things that we did as parents intuitively before the article was written. So it's just backing me up. Okay. So you're not like, oh, she's just making this up. I'm not just making it up. I'm sharing with you what Stanford Children's Health says we should do as working moms to lower our stress. So here's the first thing. You want to set a foundation, right? You want to set a firm foundation. And in order to do that, you want to establish and agree on rules for raising your children with your spouse, with your partner. You want to make sure that the two of you are on the same page when it comes to parenting. Now, I know that might seem very simple, but it's very key because if you're on the same page, you're going to make decisions together. You're going to move together in terms, you're going to flow together as you're raising your children. So, what does that mean to establish and agree on rules? Well, you want to do it before you even have kids. Before your children are in the world, walking and talking and doing all those things that kids do, you want to make sure that you have those rules in place and that they're things that you've agreed upon. What does it mean? You want to negotiate the load. Now, I know that in some families, the mother bears um, the majority of the responsibility for raising the children, at least in Western culture, right? In Eastern culture and in African nations, it's different. It's not that the mom carries the load. You want to make sure that your spouse, your partner, and you are on the same page with that. My husband and I we shared in it. We There were things that I knew that he did well as a parent. There were things that he knew I did well as a parent. But for the most part, we actually shared the load. I didn't have more um, total responsibility than he did. We were shared parents, if that's a term. I don't know if it's a term or a phrase, but we really shared in the parenting of our daughters, so that in essence they could go to either of us, and they still do. They go to both of us when they have concerns. Even as adults, they can talk to both of us, and they also know our strengths, so they use our strengths to their benefit. So you want to negotiate the load, the workload, the parenting load. Who's going to do what, and how is that going to be done? When it comes to housework, you want to make sure that you have an agreement on how the housework is going to be accomplished. That includes not only um, washing the clothes, taking out the trash. Who's going to wash the dishes? Who's going to dust? Who's going to vacuum? Who's going to wipe down the walls? All of those things that incorporate housework. Who does that? Who keeps the bathroom clean and wipes behind the toilet when there's errant okay, we won't get into that. Okay, so how is that going to be done? You want to agree on that too. Because when you're parenting and raising children and you also have housework, that can be daunting, especially when you have to do it all. The other thing is childcare. Who's responsible for childcare? And this could be if you own a business. Let's say you own a business. I know I have audience members who are business owners. And owning a business means that you're not just going to work 9 to 5. Or if you have an administrative role in your job, that's of course not a 9 to 5 position. Or if you have responsibilities at work that require that you do on call services, you're going to be working over the weekends perhaps. So who manages all of that time with your children? Now, I'm going to also mention to you all that I do recognize that some moms don't have a choice because they may be single parents. Dads too may not have a choice if they are also single parents. What I'm suggesting, however, is that you want to establish a foundation where you're utilizing your resources to help you raise and nurture your children. So we talked about divvying up, negotiating the parenting load, the parenting role, divvying up the housework. Who's responsible for childcare? What does that look like? And even homework. When they start homework, who who does that? Now, again, my husband and we have different strengths. One of the things that I always did, I would be the one who would stay up with one or both of our girls when they had projects that needed to be finished. I wouldn't I certainly wouldn't do the project for them, but I would be there with them. Sometimes we would be up until midnight. If they had to study for a test, I would help them to study. Oftentimes, gosh, it wasn't often, but occasionally, one of our daughters would need to be up studying because she had not studied previously. So prior to the day before the test, so we would stay up and study. So what does that look like? Who's going to help them with homework? Another part of setting a firm foundation that helps you to lower your stress levels and boost your energy is making sure that you have standards and expectations of yourself that are realistic. Have realistic standards and expectations. You know, sometimes when we have children, we expect ourselves to be the perfect moms, the perfect mother. And how does that show? It shows by how we keep house, how we make sure that our children have something that nutritious to eat, how our children look. Their hair has to be done, and their clothing has to be perfect, perfectly pressed, perfectly clean, etc., 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 and so forth and so on. The realistic expectation and the realistic standard is that for moms is to focus on those things, those activities that nurture and provide safety for your children. Nurture and safety. Keep that in your mind. We want to focus on those things that provide nurture and safety. So, what does that mean? Well, I'll give you an example. Our house was how can I say, our house was not always immaculate when our girls were younger because they played in the house. They would play outside and then they would come and they'd play in the house too. So we would have things all over the place. One day, our neighbor came over and I started apologizing. I started saying, apologize that, our house is tumbled up and it's not totally, in order. My neighbor, our neighbor, who is still our neighbor said to me, Marcy, what are you apologizing for? First of all, you have young children. Bing. Secondly, I dropped in. Anybody who drops into your home should expect to expect it to get to be however it is. We should not have any expectation that everything is perfect, and you shouldn't either. When she said that, I relaxed a bit because she recognized that our house was a playhouse. Our girls would build tents with sheets and chairs, and they'd have toys everywhere. And I should not have expected to meet the standard of my expectations for people coming in. Okay. So we want to make sure that our standards and our expectations are realistic, focusing on nurture and safety. Also, we want to involve our spouse or our partners in the routine of child rearing. I alluded to that earlier because children whose fathers are involved are healthier, they grow up whole, and they have fewer behavior concerns, actually. So we want a whole parenting. I think I can dub that term whole parenting. And that's not to say that single parents can't provide that. I'm suggesting that if there are two people in the home, in the household, we want to use all of those resources to raise the children. The other thing is we want to make sure that we are very clear and around duties and responsibilities. I could say to my husband, hey, can you get them ready for bed? I could say that, but what does that mean? Get them ready for bed. My thought of getting them ready for bed might mean something different than my husband's. So I needed to be very clear when I said, hey, can you get them ready for bed? That means making sure that they've taken their bath, making sure that they've brushed their teeth, making sure that their clothes for the next day, their school clothes are out and ready to go. And also making sure that they've had their story time where he would or I would tell them a bedtime story, or they would read in bed quietly and they would have their quiet time. And all making sure that it was done so that by the time it was time for them to be in bed, those things would be in place. So being very clear. So not just saying to your spouse, hey, can you get them ready for bed? specifying, being very specific and very clear about what that means. So, we are talking about three smart helps that wise working moms use that helps them to lower their stress levels and boost their energy. We've talked about setting a foundation for parenting in which you establish and agree on rules for raising your children. Also, making sure that you have realistic standards and expectations for yourself. Now, we're going to talk about where we want to focus our efforts. We want to focus our efforts on teaching, nurturing, and growing our children, right? So, one of the keys to that, which helps us to lower stress and boost energy, is to make sure that we're not trying to live our lives through our children. We don't want to have our children. I mean, sometimes it's for parents who feel they've missed things, they want their children involved in everything, right? Here's a note. If your child is rushing from one activity to the other, that means you're rushing too. So you want to make sure that the activities your children are involved in are not overextending them. Because if they are overextended, so are you. If your child is stressed, so are you. So we want to make sure that we're not living our lives through them. The other thing is, just because other people do it, it doesn't mean you have to. It doesn't mean just because Susie is involved in ballet and that's what her mom likes or that's what Susie likes, it doesn't mean that your child doesn't has to do ballet. You know, look at their interests. Look at your child's interests and consider their skills. Now, I'm not saying that you should not enroll your child in ballet if that's something they don't know. If you want to just expose them, sure, certainly do that. We certainly did. Our daughters took dance. Our daughters were involved in cotillion where they learned etiquette skills. They didn't like it, but they experienced it. And when they completed the program, that was it. We didn't do it anymore. What I'm saying is this: sometimes we can overextend our children, which stresses them out and it stresses the parent out. So you want to make sure that you limit their activities. You don't want them in cotillion and dance and karate and all of the activities at school. You want to make sure that it's reasonable and that it makes sense. Another thing is, yes, provide them with opportunities for stimulation and growth. But remember that children learn through play, and it's okay if it's free play. It's okay. Allow them time alone, time to explore, time to imagine. We want our kids to have a vibrant imagination because that helps them as they grow and mature. It's a wonderful skill to have in school, creativity and imagination. So we want to nurture that. The other thing is delegate responsibilities. And we're talking about, and this is under the category of teach, nurture, and grow your children. You want to delegate responsibilities. Use a team approach when it comes to doing chores, when it comes to meal prep, when it comes to cooking. Do a team approach. Involve your children. If you're having salad, let your daughter or your son prepare the salad. I mean, they can open a bag of lettuce, right? Let them do that. Give them age appropriate tasks to do. Set the table. It's teaching them. It's also giving them responsibilities. It also allows them to help, which they want to. They want to help. The other thing that you want to do is if you're having your children are going to different activities, carpool. Work with parents that you trust to get your children to activities along with their children as well. It's green tea for those of you who are wondering. I took a sip of tea and it's green tea. So, for those of you who came in late, we're talking about 3 smart ways that actually, 3 smart helps that actually lower working moms' stress levels and boost their energy. And I'm going to go over the ones that we've gone over in just a few seconds. Okay, so number 3, the third thing that we want to focus on when we are lowering our stress levels and boosting our energy as working moms, we want to value time. Value time. I told you that our daughters are now 23 and 21. It was not long ago when they were 3 and 1 years old. It doesn't seem that long ago. I know 20 years has passed, but 20 years goes back by so quickly. As a matter of fact, let me, I don't know if you all can see this picture. This is one of my favorite pictures of them. I think they might have been maybe 5 and 3 at that time. But I love this picture because they were playing in the dirt. And I was like, play, have a good time. They were playing in the dirt and they were caked in dirt. And I just loved it because they had so much fun. They had neighbors over, little kids who were neighbors at that time. Their peers were over and they were playing in the dirt and they had such a good time. And I loved every minute of it. But now they are adults. We want to value the time that we have with our children. So what do I mean by that? What I mean is prioritize activities based on what is vital versus what is important. Vital versus important. Yes, it is important that they have clean clothes, right? It is. It's very important that they have clean clothes. So you need to wash their clothes. But it is also vital that you spend time with them, quality time with them. So if you have to make a choice between doing the laundry and reading a book with your child, which should it be? As a mom who now has a 23-year-old and a 21-year-old, I would say choose reading the book with them. So prioritize based on what is, or I should say valued instead of vital. Valued as opposed to what is important. If you value the time with them, you will have memories like them playing in the dirt that you can cherish as opposed to washing their clothes. Another thing is adjust your expectations and standards. And I alluded to this earlier. Acknowledge and accept that you can't do everything. You can't do it all, whatever it is. Yes, we like to think of ourselves as super women and we want to do it all, but we can't. So I won't say lower your expectations, but adjust them slightly so that the laundry may not get done today, but you can load some in the laundry in the washer tonight and let it run. Besides, if you wash clothes at night, your water bill will be less because most water and sewage companies charge less because we use less water at night. So you'll be saving money at the same time. The other thing, when in terms of prioritizing, simplify your routines. I mean, yeah, you can make complicated meals that you think, really nourish them, or you can do something that's really simple, real easy, that they're going to like just as much. That's another thing that we learned. Our daughters, you know, they like to eat. They were eaters, but they didn't want anything real complex. They wanted something that they could um, just pick up and eat. So we had a lot of chicken fingers. We sure did. We cooked chicken fingers a lot. Yes, I'd get the chicken strips and I'd throw them in the fryer. That may not be as healthy, but of course, they love that. So do things that are not as complicated and don't take as much time. Another important thing when we're talking about valuing time, simplify we want to take me time. You have to protect your own well-being, because if you're not protecting your own well-being, you're not going to be fully available to your children. It's very important that you protect your own well-being and schedule me time. So, those are the three, and I gave you some bullet points underneath. Um, I know that was a lot of information, but I'm going to go over it real quickly again because I want you to something that I feel is important. Set a foundation. Set a foundation. You want to set a foundation for parenting, and you do that by number one, establishing and agreeing on rules for raising your children. Number two, by acknowledging and adjusting your expectations and the standards you have for being um, a parent. Nobody's perfect. Number two, we want to teach, nurture, and grow healthy children. And in order to do that, we want to focus on not living through them, not living our lives through them. We want to give them opportunities for stimulation and growth. And what that means is allow them to play freely, because children learn through play. And number three, we want to delegate responsibilities. We want to use a team approach in our home and also allow our children to participate in maintaining the home and contributing to the household. So, set a foundation, teach, nurture, and grow healthy children. And finally, the number three help that working moms can use to lower their stress levels and boost their energies is to value time. Prioritize our activities based on what we value versus what is important. And the example I used is, if we value quality time with our children, we versus doing laundry, we want to choose spending the quality time with our children. We want to have simple routines in our home. We don't want anything that's complicated. We want to make it simple. Instead of cooking a complex meal, make something that's simple that your children will enjoy and will eat. The other thing is, make sure that you're scheduling me time so that you can protect your own well being. Because if you're not protecting your well being, you won't be fully available to your children. Whoo, I know that that's a lot of information. I said three and I gave you lots of stuff. That's y'all, because I want to help you to lower those stress levels and boost your energy so that you will not reach burnout. I've been there, and it's no joke. When you're burned out, you cannot function. And I don't want that for you. I want you to be fully available for your children. And I also want you to be fully available for yourselves. So if you've hopped on late, feel free to watch the replay on Facebook at ML Bailey Consultants and on YouTube, also at ML Bailey Consultants. Hey, and this is a question. Do you have any topics around stress, stress management, or stress relief that you want me to cover? Please drop me a line and let me know because I'll be very happy to do it. So, if you found this information useful, I want you to sign up for our newsletter. It's called Smiles and it comes out monthly. Make sure you do that because we are changing the way we do things around here to make sure that we can constantly give you good information that's going to be helpful, as well as strategies to keep you healthy and whole. Well, that's all for now. I'm Marcyline Bailey. I'm so glad you joined me. We'll be here next week, same time, same place. Take good care.